Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Ynab webinar. My name is Erin and I will be running today's session. Really glad that you guys could join us today on this beautiful Friday. What you have signed up for is our Introduction to Ynab course. This course is designed to give you a good, solid, fundamental understanding of the basics of Ynab. We're going to be going over the Ynab method today and how you can get started, and we will definitely have some time for questions as well. What you're looking at right now is the GoToWebinar viewer, and you're viewing a presentation that I've set up for us. And you should see a second screen, and that's the GoToWebinar control panel. And it's really important that you find it because that's where the question window is, and that's how you're going to get questions over to me. You won't be able to speak to me through a microphone or a telephone line. We have a lot of people here today, and it would be a little crazy. So you'll just type your questions in that chat window. Now, if you can't find the chat window, you may find that it's been minimized, and you just want to click, you might just be seeing this very skinny little tab right here, and you just need to click on the arrow to expand it, and then you should see where you can type. So let's just start with an audio test. I always like to start like that so that I know that I'm not alone in cyberspace and that the audio is working okay, and so that I know that you know how to get a question over to me. So why don't we have everybody just type over their first name. Maybe tell me where you're listening from today. I'm hosting today from the state of Maine on the east coast of the United States. So let me know where you are and let me know how the sound is. Welcome to Michael from Texas. We've got Pam here from Nebraska. Alex joins us from Virginia. We have Jonathan also from Texas. Lorraine is here from the UK. We've got Carrie here from Tennessee. Jordan from Cincinnati. Karen's here from South Carolina. Chrissy joins us from DC. Welcome. Well, that's great. We've got actually a pretty small class today, which is great for you guys. I've got Amber joining us from New Jersey. Lots of East Coast folks today. So that's great. If you have any problem with the audio at any point, or if you think I'm going a little too quickly, don't be shy. Be sure and let me know, okay? That would be super helpful. So I will leave time for questions at the end. I've got that built into the hour we have today. However, I am going to ask you to hold questions until I ask for them. I also have a lot of content that I want to get through, and I want to make sure that I do get through all of that. So you'll hear me ask you to hold questions from time to time. That would be great. You're absolutely welcome to take notes if you'd like to, but I am going to give you a link to some other materials that you can download after class, so you don't have to take notes if you don't want to. This is the outline. This is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what a budget is. A lot of people have some preconceived notions about that aren't really on target. We like to make a budget a much more positive thing. We're going to talk about problems and solutions, specifically problems you may have had when trying to budget. And I'm going to show you how you can get started in 3 easy steps. I'll do a demonstration of the software, and if you're new to Ynab or you've been around for a bit, maybe you're looking for a restart today, we do have a new version that's been out since the end of June, Ynab 4, and Ynab 4 comes with Cloud Sync. It will sync to your mobile device or other desktop computers or laptops, and I'm going to be demonstrating that as well. And then we'll take questions. That's the plan. Now, I can't do everything in the span of an hour, and trust me when I tell you that I have tried. So these are some things I won't be covering in detail today, but we do have some other support resources, and I'll make sure that you get access to those before you leave. So I want to start by just looking at the word budget and playing a little bit of a word association game. If I was to say to you the word dog and say, what's the first word that comes to your mind? Somebody might say cat, right? And there's a whole bunch of words that might immediately be triggered when you hear the word dog. I want to know, and I want you to type over to me, what word or words immediately come to your mind when you hear the word budget. Now, you can't scare me. I've heard everything, okay? So just type over some responses. I'm kind of curious what people are thinking about. We've got money, complicated. Savings, hard, I've heard that before. Planning, drag, watch out, straitjacket, that's a good one. I've actually heard that one before. We've got 2 of those today. Lack of money, restriction, that's a big one. Getting control, organized, organizing. Great, great answers. But nobody said anything fun, Nobody said awesome. Nobody said I can't wait to budget. Nobody said anything positive. So we kind of want to look at that, because the way that we like to think about it and the way we hope we can get you to think about it is it's just a plan. It's just a plan for your money. And I can absolutely promise you I'm not going to try to impose my plan on you. Everybody's situation is different, and you get to set up your own plan. And it's a good idea to go into your financial situation with a plan. Just like chess, you wouldn't go into a chess game without a strategy. And that's what this is. It's just a strategy for taking control of your financial situation. But like I said, there are a lot of problems associated with budgeting. You know, a lot of people try and fail and they feel like they can't make it work for them. You know, maybe you're like this guy, right? And you just head in the clouds and you haven't been paying attention at all. And then all of a sudden you were kind of forced to pay attention and you had no idea what was going on, right? Or maybe you're like this guy, deliberately trying not to know what's going on, right? Avoiding it by sticking your head in the sand. I think I was more like the giraffe in that I just wasn't paying attention, you know, just wasn't paying attention. And that lack of awareness is a pretty big problem for a lot of folks. So the way that we solve that problem is we follow our very first rule. Now, Ynab has 4 rules of cash flow. And the first rule is give every dollar a job. Every single dollar gets a job, and you have to tell it what to do. So now what we want you to do is set up job descriptions for your money. Think about any employer. When you go into the grocery store, somebody has decided we need somebody at the cash register, we need somebody bagging groceries, we need somebody in the deli. Somebody has set up job descriptions, right? And in the software, we call these categories. So you're going to hear me refer to categories quite a bit during this hour today. So let's jump over to the software and take a look. I'm going to jump back over here to Ynab. I apologize for this poor screen. I don't know why it does this, but just on that little transition, it doesn't seem to be too happy. So I've got Ynab open on the screen here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to walk through a hypothetical situation with a family, maybe similar to yours. And we're just going to pretend that it's a 2-income household. And the husband gets paid on the first of the month, and his income is fixed. It doesn't change. He just gets $2,000 every month. The wife gets paid every month, twice a month. And her income is variable. We never know exactly what it's going to be. It's changing all the time. Maybe you're in that kind of a situation, right? All they have right now to start with is $280. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the checking account. And I'm going to click on the Add Account button right here. The first thing we want to do is enter income. So we're going to tell the budget about the $280 that we have in the bank. And let's just pretend it's July 4th, Independence Day, right? And it's a checking account, so I'm going to click Create Account. And the very first thing you'll notice is that I can now see the balance here on the left-hand side in the Account tab. And there's a starting balance transaction that's been entered for me. And it says it's been categorized as income for July. And this is one way that Ynab is very, very different than a lot of other financial software that you might use. We don't want to have you just entering income. We want to make sure that money gets to a place where you can put it to work. So we categorize, and that's how we communicate with the budget screen. So I just sent this $280 over to the budget. So let's go take a look. I'm going to click on the budget tab right here. And you can see we're in July, and you can tell it's July because of the yellow triangle right there that indicates the current month. And I have $280 available to budget. That's how much money I have to work with. So my first step 1 was to enter my income. Step 2 is to budget those dollars. So now I'm going to ask myself a really critical question. What does this money need to do before I am paid again? It's not a lot, but I still have to give it a job. And I'm not going to try to budget for everything. A lot of people try to jump in a little too far, a little too fast, and that's when you end up feeling overwhelmed. All I need to do is figure out what I'm going to do with this money right here. So I might think, well, all right, let's see. I know we need some groceries, and I'm not trying to budget for all the groceries for the month. I'm just trying to say, what does this money need to do before I get paid again? So I'm going to put $125 there, and you can see I now have $155 left, okay? And so now I also know that I need gas in the car to get to work, so I'm going to put $100 there. And I know we might need to pick up some things around the house, so I'm going to put that there. I didn't budget for the rent because I already paid the rent 4 days ago. I already paid the July rent, and it's already been subtracted from my bank balance. One thing that people get tripped up on is they try to go back in time and enter stuff retroactively, and it's always really tricky. Just start with what you have and move forward. You're going to find it's much easier, less overwhelming, and far more effective. So now I've got a 0 at the top here, and every single dollar has a job. All my money knows exactly what it needs to do. And so my third step is to just record my spending and follow this budget. I just want to make sure I spend according to this plan. This is a budget. I didn't budget for everything, but I do have a budget set up. So maybe I need to buy gas and groceries. So I'm going to record that. And I'm going to record that where it happened. It happened in my checking account. So I'm going to go over here. And we're going to say, okay, let's say maybe two days later on Friday, I decided I needed to go to the grocery store. That's who got my money. And I bought groceries. And let's say I spent $85 on groceries. And on the way home, I stopped at the gas station and put some gas in the car. Okay? And let's say $45 for gas. So you can see the account balance gets updated. Everything's good there, right? And if I look over here on the budget, I can see that the budget got updated as well. There's my spending. I had planned to spend $125 on groceries. I've spent $85. I've got $40 left until I get paid again, right? I planned to spend $100 on gas. I've spent $45. Ynab enters this field for me, and I've got $55 left. So you'll notice that this has allowed me to do a really, really important thing. And that's to prioritize. I just made sure that the things that need to be taken care of were taken care of. I prioritized. I didn't try to do too much and go crazy. I just said, what does this money need to do right now? Okay? And when you're able to prioritize, it helps. Because now all my spending decisions are going to be made by focusing on the budget. If I need to spend money, I'm going to check the budget instead of the bank balance. Think about that for a second. Does that sound familiar to you? Has anyone here? Let's get a true or false from the group. You can type over true or false. Have you ever made a spending decision by checking the bank balance? Honey, can you look in there and see? I want to go grocery shopping. I just need to know what the balance is in the checking account. Sound familiar? Can you check? I want to make sure we have enough to pay the light bill, right? And that's the way a lot of people make spending decisions today, but it's horribly inefficient. And it's stressful. It's also, I think it makes it easy for you to spend because you're thinking, if there's money in there, I can spend it. When really, there might be money in there, but it might need to do another job for you. And you don't know if you haven't figured out what those jobs are and assigned that money to a job. Okay? So this is a much better approach. Also, you notice that I followed a very clear process. There were just 3 very simple steps. I entered income, and then I budgeted that income, and then I followed the budget that I set up. That was it. The next time I get money, I'll enter that, and we're going to go through this in the demo. And then I'll budget those dollars. I might change my budget. I'm allowed to do that. I'm the master of my budget. I can make a change if I want to. And then I'm going to follow whatever that plan is that I set up. And I'm always asking myself, always, what does this money that I just got need to do before I'm paid again? Now that's going to solve a whole bunch of problems for you if you can use that first rule. But unfortunately, that's not all the problems, okay? There are other problems that people face that have a lot to do with uneven expenses, right? Maybe you feel blindsided when an unexpected expense comes along. Oh no, flat tire, how am I going to pay for that, right? And that can leave you feeling like you're on a financial roller coaster. You can just never save and get ahead, Oh, I would have been able to put a bunch of money in savings if it hadn't been for the car breaking down. If only this hadn't happened, we could have done that, right? But the real problem here is that you're not considering what we call your true expenses. So let's talk about that. Your true expenses are whatever you have to pay or want to pay right now. That's, your monthly bills, light bill, phone bill, groceries, rent, all that stuff, right? Plus whatever you have to pay or want to pay in the future. Let's be honest, not all bills come every month. Something like the car insurance comes every 6 months maybe, right? Or the car will break down, but we don't know when. But when you add those two things together, then you can get a really clear picture of your true expenses. So how can we manage that? How can we make that super easy? We use our second rule for that, and that says save for a rainy day. So let's talk about what a rainy day is. A rainy day is an expense that occurs outside of your normal monthly expenses. I'm sure you could think of a bunch right now as you're sitting here watching this, right? And I find that there are 2 types of rainy days. First, there are predictable rainy days. This is like, I know it's coming, right? I know that car insurance bill will be here, and I know the property taxes have to get paid every spring. These are big rainy days, big expenses, and I know when they're coming, and sometimes I know how much they're going to be. Then we have the unpredictable rainy days. These are the flash floods of your financial life, right? The car breaking down, oh my goodness, the dog needs to go to the vet. We weren't expecting that. Those are the things that often blindside people quite a bit. So let me jump over to the software and we'll show you how this works. Jump back here to Ynab. And so let's pretend now that in our hypothetical family that I get paid. I just got my first paycheck in July, and it came on the 7th, and it was for $850. So here's how I'd enter that paycheck. I'm going to go over here to the checking account because that's where the money was deposited. And I'm going to add a new transaction. And we're going to say I got paid on the 7th. And let's just say Erin's paycheck. You know, some people use the payee field, you know, for who they gave the money to, and you can also use it for who gave you the money. So like it could say your employer there if you wanted it to. And now I have to decide how to use this income. And this is a very unique thing about Ynab. You either need that money right now or you don't. Okay, now I need this money to budget through the rest of July. So my two choices that I see for income are income for July or income for August. And you can see it's a July date, and that's what's causing those two choices. So I'm going to choose income for July, and we're going to say this was an $850 check. By the way, I use a lot of round numbers, folks, in the demonstrations just so that you don't have to do crazy math in your head while you're trying to learn. So there's my paycheck. My bank balance went up, and this money was sent over to the budget. So let's go back to the budget. And at the top, you can see I now have another $850 that I can budget with. I entered income. Second step, budget that income. So what does this money need to do before I get paid again? I know I need more money for groceries, so I'm going to change that. I am allowed to change my budget. I also know that we need a little more money for gas for the car, so I'm going to up that a little bit. And then, okay, my light bill and my phone bill are both due next week, so I'm going to budget for those. $80 for the light bill, $110 for the phone bill. And my car payment's due next week, so I'm gonna put that in there too. Car payment $275. And now I'm gonna start, now that my immediate bills are taken care of, and I know this is a very simple budget, but we only have an hour here, so I wanna make sure I get through a lot. But now I have to think about other expenses that might not come for a while. So one of them is car insurance, and that bill's not due for 3 months, but I don't wanna be blindsided in 3 months when it gets here. So I'm gonna start saving for it now. So I'm going to put $75 in my car insurance category. I want to start saving for when the car needs work, so I'm going to put $60 there. And then I know the kids are going to need clothes, and I know we've got some birthdays coming up, so I'm going to put some money there. Now all that money has a job. All my money's been given a job, and I've saved for some rainy days. I've got some balances I'm building up there. So I set some money aside as a part of my plan to take care of these rainy days because I know they're coming along. And then I just go along and update my budget as usual. I'm just following my budget. So if I have to pay some bills, I just do that. I go over here to checking, and I'm going to say, okay, on the 9th, I sat down and I paid a bunch of bills. I paid the electric bill. This money went to the electric company, and that was for $80. And then I also paid the phone bill. That money went to the phone company. And you can see I have to type everything out right now, but Ynab's going to get smart, and it's going to learn about all these different things I'm doing. And I also paid the car payment. Whoops. And I'll put that in there, $275. Okay? And you can see my checking account balance gets updated, and my budget gets updated. Okay? That shows that I paid those bills. Now, I want to talk a little bit about our Cloud Sync feature. How many of you guys are familiar with that? Let's just get a little feedback. How are we doing so far, by the way? Is this making sense so far? Just kind of check in and see how everybody's doing. Okay, so we have Cloud Sync, and what that does is it allows me or my spouse to enter on a mobile device, and I got to tell you guys, it is absolutely magical. It will update things automatically. Things just automatically get updated, okay? So I'm going to demo this when we get going here a little bit. I have an iPad here, and I've got a little program that will let me show it to you on the screen, and I'm going to show you what happens when somebody enters spending on the go, because that's what we really want. We want you to be up to date and have both spouses or everybody in the household has the same exact information as far as the money's concerned, okay? So maybe what happens is on the 13th, my husband stops for gas, and he's got his iPad with him or his iPhone. I'm just going to use an iPad because that's what I have for demonstration purposes. So let me bring this up on the screen. and there it is. And I'm going to just make this a little bit smaller for you so that you can see. I want you to be able to see Ynab and the app. So let me give me 1 second here, and I'll pull this over a little bit. And we'll see if we can get that app back over. There it is. And I can make this a little bit smaller. And I've got my iPad here, and I'm going to enter things on the iPad, and you should see them appear on the screen, okay? So he stops for gas on the 13th, and he spends $55, and he enters it on the go while he's out and about, okay? So watch this. I'm going to click on the green plus sign. You want to be watching the iPad right here. I'm going to click on the green plus sign, and I'm going to say he's at the gas station. He's like, all right, I spent $55. And he starts typing in the payee, gas station, okay, great. And it remembers the category that I entered in the software. Did you see that? It remembers this right here. It already did that, okay? Now I'm going to hit save, and we're going to see that that's going to appear over here in the register. And let's see how quick it happens. Here we go. Save. 1, 2, 3. There it is. Entered immediately so that I'm up to date. And if I had a phone, it would show up on my phone. And once all these devices are set up to sync, it's just that magical and it's just that fast. Now I'm going to enter some grocery spending here. Let me enter some grocery spending. That should have been the 13th. I'm just going to change that real quick, just so that I don't mess up my demonstration. I've got a little bit of a narrow screen here. Let me go back. There we go. I'll move this over a little bit. So I'm going to also get some, let's see, I'm going to buy groceries on the 15th, and I'm going to enter that here. And he's out, and he needs to know how much I've got on groceries. So I just say grocery store, and you can see my balance on groceries right here, okay? And I'm going to say $180 is what I spent. I hit save. Now, our programmers tell me that it can take about 20 seconds for it to sync. That's about the longest I've ever waited. And what happens is, it takes about 5 seconds, or it could take about 5 seconds to get up to the cloud, and then the other device has to pull it down. So it just takes a little bit of time to update. But eventually I should be seeing a balance in groceries of $35. Okay, we're going to see that update on the other device. I find today it seems to be going a little slower for me the other direction, but when I enter on the device it's real quick. You can tell if you've got, and I know my screen isn't real clear here, but it's got Dropbox running up here. And that's how you can tell. So it has to get pulled from one to the other to update. Now, if he updates again and he's out and about, it's going to come right back. It's going to work really hard to keep both up. There it is. Both those devices in sync. So maybe on the 18th, he's out, and let's see. Let me get this. He's out. And he buys some stuff for the household, maybe $35, maybe at Target. And we're going to say that's for household expenses. So I'm just going to kind of scroll down here and find it. And I'm using the Lite app, which is free, by the way. This is Ynab Lite for iPhone. Runs on the iPad in 2 times size. So there it is. I just entered that household expense, and we're going to eventually see that up. There it is. It's already been updated over here. So it's very quick. It keeps you right on the same page. So any of you guys have mobile devices, we have an Android app and we have an iPhone app, and that you can sync both of those, okay? So just wanted to take a little bit of a second and demo that. Let me get this device off the screen here. So, does that seem like it might be useful to some of you? You don't have to hit a sync button. You don't have to do anything. Once you've got the initial setup done, it's just done, okay? I found it super useful. I was in New York City last weekend, and I didn't have my laptop out and about when I was shopping and stuff, but I had my phone, and I was able to enter on the go, and then when I get home, everything was just in the budget. It's great, okay? So just wanted to let everybody see how that worked. It's very, very magical. I think our guys did a great job on that. So anyway, let's go back to the slides here and talk a little bit about Rule 2, just kind of wrap up a few things here. So Rule 2, as you can see, helps you to anticipate bigger bills and expenses before they get here, okay? Now, what a lot of folks will say is, well, that's awesome and I can plan for those things, but there are still things that come up that I couldn't plan for, right? Because nobody has a crystal ball and you can't see perfectly into the future. And then when something goes wrong, you end up feeling like, see, I told you I couldn't stick to a budget, or how was I supposed to know? I tried to budget at the beginning of the month, and now I'm all thrown off because of this thing I just couldn't anticipate, right? Well, the truth is, we need to acknowledge the fact that it's true, you can't predict everything. And so we need some flexibility, right? And that's where Rule 3 comes in. And Rule 3 says, roll with the punches. If something goes wrong, we're just going to roll with it. I love this rule. Let's say I budget $25 for birthdays, for gifts, right? I'm doing great. But I end up, and I just go a little crazy at the store, and I end up spending $42.50. That's more than I had set aside. Now, the key point here is you didn't fail at budgeting. You just spent more than you intended to in one category. You might have a bunch of categories. Just overspent in one area. That's it. And it's not the end of the world. So what we're going to have you do is just roll with it. Let's jump over to the software and we'll take a look. So I'm going to do that same example with the birthday present so that you can see exactly what happens here, okay? So I'm going to go over to my checking account and we're going to say I went to a fancy store. It's super fancy. And I bought a gift. I only have $25. You can see that right there. But I don't know, I just got a little crazy and I spent $42.50, okay? So let's go back to the budget and take a look at what happened. So you can see right down here I'm seeing a big red number, and that's Ynab's way of waving at you saying, you need to pay attention to this. Something went not according to plan. What are we going to do? But it's not a big deal. Remember what I said earlier, you can change your budget at any time, right? So what I'm going to do is I look around and I just said, well, I've got some money here in clothing, and I'm okay. We don't really need to buy anything right now. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to lower this so that I can make more money available. I'm going to change this to $7.50. And that made $17.50 available again. And now I can reassign that to gifts. Now people say, aren't you cheating? You just cheated. You didn't stick to your budget. I'm being proactive. I saw something happen and I adjusted. Or maybe, you know, I made a conscious decision. It isn't even a mistake, right? It isn't a mistake that I bought this birthday present and spent more than maybe it was just, I got in there and I'm like, oh, I've got to get that. That's a conscious decision, and I'm an adult and I'm allowed to make that decision. And maybe even in the store, and this has happened to me, I'm in there, I'm thinking, well, I really want to get this, but what, and I'm thinking I'll look at my budget and I'll know, okay, I've got a little money here. I'll just adjust this later. And I just make an adjustment.